Hey, it's me, Maggie J. Today with a quick recap of episode 8 and 9 of the Courtship. I am currently operating in voiceover mode due to a lack of time for filming and editing. So I hope you don't mind, it'll just be the voice for the foreseeable future, which leaves plenty of screen space for the main event. As you know, Miss Nicole Remy claims to be looking for love in the Regency style, but every episode of this Courtship has only proven that she's not, actually. And would really like it if these suitors stopped playing by the rules and proved how into her they are by forcing their way into her space and demanding she spend solo time with them, outside of the usual scheduled events. I've not been happy with the way the last few episodes have been going, not just because this chick won't give my guy Hungry Cones the time of day, but because she's being kind of a floozy. If you watched my last video recapping episodes 6 and 7, you'll know what I'm talking about, and to save time, I'll say go watch that one so we can go ahead and get to what actually happened here in episode 8. First, the parents have returned. Mr. and Mrs. Remy return from wherever it is they went off to, and they are quickly caught up on the hot goss by Nicole, Miss Cleary, and Miss Baker. They've lost Dr. Hatem and Captain Kim, but gained Mr. Nazir, and Mr. Remy seems real excited to speak to a Frenchman. To mark their return, the parents have planned a dinner party for everyone, court and suitors, and it's nice to see everyone gathered around one table interacting with each other. Hungry Cones seems like he's giving Nazir some helpful advice by telling him to avoid speaking French. The Remys have a problem with it. Good try, my guy, but that is not the end of Mr. Cones' fretful dinner discourse. A short time later, Mr. Remy gets up to give a toast. Cones interrupts him and offers up a lackluster toast. He realizes immediately that he's done fucked up, but he carries on as if this was all part of his plan. Luckily, this happened pretty early into the dinner, and some other hijinks during the meal helped to smooth over this moment. Sort of. Nazir gives a speech after Cones, and I'll admit, I'm no one who should be discussing anyone's foreign language abilities, but Nazir's French sounds very stilted, like he's reciting something he's heard before, rather than talking in a language he is able to switch into easily.
Très heureux d'être là pour vous et votre fille merveilleuse.
But Mr. Remy loved it and spent a lot of time during dinner talking to him. There's plenty of different discussions and interactions going on throughout this. Nothing so notable it requires discussion. Then Nicole has the opportunity to invite 4 suitors to join in a parlor game night that involves a ton of drinking and a few weird 1800s games. Mr. Nazir, Mr. Chapman, Mr. Bocchicchio, and Mr. Mumbury are the lucky invitees, and during this get-together, Mr. Chapman reveals some interesting info during a game of Never Have I Ever, not circa the 1800s. Miss Cleary says, "Never have I ever been afraid of commitment." And Chapman is the only one who drinks, and he drains his drink to solidify his answer. It is revealed that Chapman is still hesitant about a long-term relationship with Nicole. He says, "I don't know if I want to be this serious with any girl at this point," even though they've already had the sex, and she says in her confessional she feels foolish and stupid about it. As she should. You've known him for 3 weeks, Nicole. He's a hot drifter who rolls into town, beds all the interested women, then rides out of town when he gets bored and thinks it's cool because he never has to hang around to find out what the consequences are. You're not special enough to make him want to change his ways, Nicole. Smarten up. The following day, Nicole and her mother sit down to catch up. Mrs. Remy is still operating on information she's gathered during the first few episodes and is oblivious to what's happening during the last couple. Her favorite is still Mr. Hunter, who is a solid pick in my book, but Nicole has not paid much attention to him since their solo dates back towards the beginning. And as much of a good catch as he seems, I don't think she's feeling the spark. She mentions Mr. Nazir, that he is so fun and full of life, she'd like to pursue him further, and Mr. Holland is rushing in too quickly, saying he knows she's his match and being ready to marry her while knowing so little about her. She's taken aback by that, with good reason in my opinion. Nobody should be that into you given as little time as they have spent together. It feels desperate. But that's the most important info I can glean from that conversation. The next activity on the docket is a shooting event involving the 4 suitors who were not invited to the Parlor games the night before. Here, Mrs. Remy is able to showcase her own skills behind the sights and proves she is quite a badass. So says Mr. Cones, who recognizes her skills, calling her Sniper Mama. While the guys are shooting, Nicole yells questions to them, trying to throw them off, but also prying sensitive information from them about their preferences, their love history, and how they would react if she did some dumb thing or another. I don't really care for this line of questioning. It's probably nothing that would make her change her mind too much. Rain keeps the event short and possibly prevents them from having those one-on-one times where Nicole could walk away with a suitor, and all of the suitors are not happy about that. Not that the suitors from last night got much solo time during the Parlor games, but these 4 suitors are ones that have not spent much time with Nicole since the beginning. I feel they should have gotten the chance for some solo time with her. Later in the day, Mr. Hunter surprises her with a bouquet and they get some solo time, but at the end of that, I don't think that he's given her the answer she's looking for, and he is still very hesitant to open up to her. If he's as closed off and quiet as he says he is, I'm sure the competition between him and the other guys is what is preventing him from opening up. Why bother telling this chick all your secrets if she's already bedding down with some other guys here? Don't waste your time, right? I don't know. Mr. Chapman tells the rest of the suitors he doesn't think there's much future for him and Nicole. He's not looking to change his lifestyle. He is not ready to propose to anyone. So he kind of hopes that he will be on the dance card tonight, despite there being no indication to Nicole as to why he should be there. Holy cow, this guy is stupid. And he is not being upfront about his feelings. He's more than willing to be on the card, but won't go out of his way to make sure Nicole knows how he's feeling so she can make the decision if he should be on the card at all. What a chump. While Miss Nicole is reading a book in the sunlight, Mr. Cones thinks it is the perfect time for a solo moment and surprises her with a bucket of champagne and a confession that might change everything between them. Once he's settled in, he tells her he's so happy and excited to fall in love. He's just not sure if he will ultimately fall for a woman or a man. He wants her to be aware of his openness to the opportunities, and she really seems accepting of his fluidity and even gives him a kiss, their first kiss of the season. But holy cow, I think he is sucking on the whole bottom half of her face. Back off, sir. Kisses should be soft, not slobbery enough that you have to wipe your chin when you're done. Ew. Sadly, I have to accept that Mr. Cones is likely not the one, but he is a good buddy to keep around, so he'll likely be around for a few more episodes, just not up until the finals. Now it is time for the elimination ball. The choices include Mr. Chapman, Mr. Mumbrae, Mr. Holland, and Mr. Hunter. Ultimately, she chooses to send Mr. Mumbrae and Mr. Holland home, and it is very emotional for everyone because of Mr. Holland. We all knew Mr. Mumbrae wasn't going the distance. Best of luck, Charlie, in your endeavors in the future. I feel like Mr. Holland could have been a contender here. He is good looking, the court liked him, and he and Nicole got along really well and laughed together a lot when they had the time. But he's got a very young kid, which can be a lot to accept, and could potentially be a very dramatic situation. And he confessed his undying devotion to her way too early, which is clingy and a bit creepy. So while it is sad to say goodbye to these fine fellows, it's time for the next episode as well. Episode 9. This one opens with the whole court discussing all their opinions of the suitors. None of them seem too happy she's falling in love with Chapman, but they are more than happy to be supportive, which I don't think is the job of the court. They should be steering her away from some of these guys, choosing less problematic men for her to spend time with. If they get a chance to choose anytime soon, it seems their on-screen interactions and potential influence have been reduced, and they're more like yes men now, and I really don't care for it. The daily tea is delivered, and the suitors find out they will be competing in a festival of strength competition. They've got to lift some rocks and hold some logs over their heads. I thought that they'd have more than 2 events in a festival, but okay, Mr. Edwards. I know the budget on the show is probably pretty small. First off, they lift these 150-pound boulders. Mr. Judge does the best, and Dad Bod Cones has a great showing, beating Mr. Hunter, whose abs might be giving old Hungry Combs a complex. The next event is the log of endurance, where they just have to hold this log over their heads. Cones again surprises the crowd by outlasting Mr. Judge, who tried to do some overhead curls with his log and wore himself right out. Due to the time they've each held up the log, the finale comes down to Mr. Hunter versus Mr. Nazir, and the socialite absolutely blew me away. I did not expect this guy to be this fit. Congrats, dude. He and Nicole have a little sit down and they do a little kissing, and I think he's being very charming during this time. He's not putting on any airs or working too hard to try to impress or show off, and then he gives her some info she definitely needed to hear. Throughout this episode, Chapman talks to the other guys several times about how he is not sure he still wants to be here. He knows he won't want to propose to anyone at the end of this, and Nazir goes ahead and lets her know what he's been told. This does not jive with what Chapman's been telling Nicole, though, so she is confused and worried. Later on, Mr. Hunter sits down with her and asks why she put him on the dance card. She says he's not opening up enough with her, and I completely understand. After all these weeks, he's not even told us, the audience, much about himself. He's coming across as disconnected and a bit detached, and because he can't share more parts of himself with her, their relationship is going nowhere. Nicole sends an invitation to Mr. Bocciccio to spend a spa night with her. They do a lot of talking about the same old shit, that he's uncomfortable seeing her with these other guys. He's not sure he's going to be ready to propose to her at the end of this. Just more of that talk that requires the woman to be reassuring of the man's feelings, which is the same shit he says to her every single time they talk. Knock it off. She's not going to quit the game and run away with you. Nicole is upset about this as well, because remember at the masquerade ball in front of Mr. Nazir and Dom, he said he would be ready to propose? So, what the hell, guy? You only feel like it when someone else might be interested in her? Ugh, I fucking hate this guy. Him and Mr. Chapman, they can both go sit in the lake until this show is over. And then they take a bath together, because the network needs y'all to follow through on at least one thing you promised here, and a sexy bath has been mentioned twice, so here we go. This needy fuck and this woman who is terrible at choosing boyfriends are in the tub, and it's stupid. End scene. At breakfast the next morning, Miss Baker and Miss Clear listen to Nicole go on about her date with Bocciccio, and even though Nicole says he's still hesitant if he's going to want to propose, Miss Baker is like, he'll just do it in his own time, not addressing that is not what Nicole wants, nor is that the purpose here. Why are you here, members of the court? To never give her any helpful advice? They do wish Nicole luck when she says she needs to go talk to Chapman about what Mr. Nazir told her, and then she goes to the Suitor's house. The other guys awkwardly leave these two alone, which I thought was rude. Take him outside, Nicole. Don't kick the guys out of their own parlor. Jeez. The talk goes about the way that I expected it would. She lays it all out for him, that she's been told he's scared to move forward with her, and he admits he is. And then leaves her hanging when she asks if he wants to be here anymore. After he says, I think we could be in love, but I don't think I can give you the life you want, and I'm trying to force myself to get there, to be that guy. She runs away to cry in the hallway. It should have kept on running. Eventually, she leaves to cry in the castle with Miss Baker and Miss Cleary, and Chapman makes this big speech to the guys that this is probably his last time he'll be there in the parlor with them. And then he walks out. I wish he would have also kept on going, but later on he's in the lineup at the farewell dance. On the dance card this week is Mr. Chapman, Mr. Hunter, and Mr. Cones. As soon as his name is read, Mr. Cones is convinced he is the one going home. She and him are definitely not romantically lining up, but he is such a fun guy with a big personality. It is an easy decision to keep him around and send home Mr. Hunter, who seems even more of a mystery now than when he arrived here, because it's been so long since he's told us anything about himself. And then I thought Nicole was going to do a smart and get rid of Chapman as well, but instead she does a dumb and tells him to stay. And look at Miss Baker here in the background, fawning over the decision to keep a guy who has made her sister cry more times in 5 or 6 weeks than ought to be legally allowed. Ma'am, he broke Nicole's heart, and you're all verklempt. I'm disappointed in you. Okay, so that is episode 9. More kisses were shared, more tears were shed, more nipples were nearly frozen off during the shirtless portion being filmed in the very chilly environment that springtime in the UK must be. I don't think this show has any possibility of saving itself from being a one-season flop, considering there are less and less people reviewing this show every week, and the fact that this show fucking sucks. Using the Regency era was a gimmick to draw in the Bridgerton crowd, and now it has been tainted, so it is very likely we will never see another period set dating show. Nicole is a dum-dum when it comes to love, which, okay, plenty of people are exactly that, and the world keeps turning. No big deal, right? Wrong. She knows that she's a dummy about this, and yet she keeps trusting herself to make the right decisions. Do you remember at the beginning, she said she's had her heart broken too many times and wanted to approach love in an entirely different way? I remember. And yet here she is, having sex with dudes who live in vans and continually tell her they're not ready to provide her with what she wants. She's continuing to try and assure some guy who is supposed to be fighting for her that she has real and genuine feelings for him. But he's not sure he'll be ready to do the same for her by the end of this. She continues to spend private dates with the same guys over and over, not trying to get to know some of the others before deciding they're not getting there. She wasted 2 dates with Mr. Mumbrey so production could play up the Brit versus Brit rivalry with him and Nazir, which, okay, that could be out of her control, so only a half a point off for that one. But then the court has zero influence. I won't get into the Tessa discussion again. That is a whole other problem on its own, but we are not getting any confessionals from her, Dom, or even Miss Baker. The Remys have been gone, and since they've been back, basically the entire court has turned into Nicole's cheerleaders. No matter how much they don't support her decisions, they don't tell her she shouldn't do this. There is absolutely no drama from the court, and it's pretty damn boring to watch. The Regency events are too few and too short, or maybe the episodes are too long for so little action to happen during the runtime. There's like 10 minutes of Regency things, 10 minutes of ballroom stuff, and 20 minutes of Nicole talking about what we just watched happen and why Mr. Chapman is confusing her. Again. I could say a whole ton more about the many confusing and stupid things that are going on with this show, but I'm pretty sure that this is enough for now. There's probably 3 to 4 more episodes, so I'll try to spread out the criticism a little more evenly. Let me know if you're hating this as much as I am. I just want to know that I'm not alone here. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing so you don't miss my next video about this boring ass show. Maybe I can start throwing in some different reviews between these shows. I don't know. I'm just so tired after working all day. I'm falling asleep by 8:30 at night, like almost every night. Literally sleeping my life away. Anyway, until next time, y'all be sure to get plenty of sleep, and above all, stay safe out there.